What's up, my fellow Chibits? Today I'm here to bring all of you the weekly anime review of Jitsu. Now, with this week's episode, we get a Shirogami episode, and this episode, for the most part, progresses the romance between our two main characters, which is a good thing because instead of introducing more characters that add more fluff to the series and a bigger harem, we're focusing on these girls, our main girls that's already been introduced, to progress their romance. Because like with last week's episode with Aizawa, and then with this week's episode of Shirogami, we're getting some nice good characterization and character development for some of our characters that allows us to grow closer to them. And that's a perfect example of what this episode is actually about. Now, getting into the nitty-gritty of the details, the episode, on paper, it's very simple because it follows Shirogami trying to figure out how she can walk in day-to-day life without her skin looking like it's tan and she's burnt to a crisp by being on the beach maybe 8 to 10 hours every day. And so Shirogami tries to figure out what she can possibly do, which eventually leads it to different antics of trying to figure out, like, to dodge the sunlight going through the shadows, which is pretty damn funny, to, figuring out these different things that she could possibly do. Eventually she comes to find out if she just puts on some sunblock, everything will work out. So, about 70% of this episode, or 60% of this episode, was just comedy around this sunblock thing with her trying to figure out how she could, I guess, hide her skin from the sun where she doesn't get as tan and she can go outside and not have to worry about the sun baking her skin into, like, a tan color. And so that's kind of what the first half of the episode is about. There's not really much more to go on, just comedy and just, I guess, funny stuff going on with some of the situations of the characters with the garlic to the cross and different stuff like that. Now, the second half of the episode, however, is where the real beef lies, and the best part of the episode, to my personal opinion, because we get a lot of characterization about Shirogami and find out more about her parents, to some actual love progression between our characters, and getting to see maybe some possible foreshadowing hints for the future, along with a new, I guess, antagonist, or the first antagonist of the series being introduced. So, the second half, you have it to where Shirogami is still the main focus, and she goes to an amusement park. She's always wanted to go to an amusement park, because supposedly from what she says, is that her parents, when they met and they started dating, they went to this amusement park to have a date. And so she eventually wanted to go onto this amusement park to have a date, or not really have a date, just go to an amusement park, which eventually it kind of turns out to be a date with the main character. And it's kind of funny how the entire situations of what was described by Shirogami in this episode turns out to be the exact same thing that's happening right now. Because we come to find out, Shirogami's parents, one is a human, one is a vampire, which I did not expect that. Like, I expected Shirogami to be entirely vampire. I didn't think she was half, and to find out that she's half, it actually makes a lot more sense now how she's kind of a little bit more immune to the sun, to garlic, to crosses and stuff, because she's not really full-blooded vampire. I wonder exactly how her father reacts out in, the sunlight and stuff. I wonder what's different since he's a full-blooded vampire. The effects of weaknesses against vampires must be a lot worse compared to a half-blood, and to see that in this, that a vampire, fell in love with a human, it's kind of hinting that that's what's going to happen at the end of the series. Shirogami's going to fall in love with our MC, and eventually they're going to get together and become a couple towards the end of the series. And that's kind of what that part of the episode is really just trying to make us assume as a viewer. And also more to that, I hope that the parents of Shirogami actually eventually get introduced, or we get to see more of them, and they get to see, the situation, what's going on at school, because I would love to see something like that. We might get something like that very soon, according to the way the ending was done, because you see it to where a wolf man is going to be going to Shirogami's school to check out if she's able to keep her secret or not, which leads into most likely the next arc we're going to be getting into. And I think this is going to be the first arc that this series has actually had, because if we think about it, this series, Jitsu, has kind of been episodic. It has. It's introduced characters, and then it's been episodic with these different episodes that focus on the other girls. And if we're following the format of the previous couple episodes, I'm going to assume next week's episode is going to follow the nosy girl, with the orange hair. I'm willing to assume that episode is going to, or next week's episode is going to be around that. But I don't know. Overall, though, the episode, pretty damn good. I enjoyed it. We'll just have to see how it goes and how this Wolfman will be introduced. Right now, he seems like he's going to be the antagonist. He's going to stir up some drama and issues. Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. Please be safe. Chibi out.